Welcome back. House Democrats are moving forward on a possible assault weapons ban. The Judiciary Committee meeting today to mark up that bill. Joining us right now is the Ohio Congressman Jim Jordan. He's the ranking member of the Judiciary Committee and a member of Oversight as well. He's the author of the book, Do What You Said You Would Do, Fighting for Freedom in the Swamp. Congressman, it's great to see you. Thanks very much for being here.
Good to be with you.
What happens with the assault bill markup today and this week? What can you tell us?
Well, hopefully we can stop it. I mean, the Second Amendment's clear. The right to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It doesn't, I always point out, it doesn't say the right to keep muskets. It says arms. It doesn't say shall not be infringed unless it's assault weapons. So the Second Amendment is as clear as it could be, but the Democrats are just bent on attacking people's liberty. I mean, I said the other day, think about it. You got less money in your wallet, less gas in your car, and less freedom because of the Democrats' policy. So we're going to fight this as hard as we can. I don't know if they got the votes on the floor yet to in the full House to pass this. Let's hope they don't, because you know, the Second Amendment is pretty darn important. That's why the founders put it right next to the First.
Well, Congressman, I don't understand what's going on here. We're having conversations all morning long about this agenda and why you've got the progressives knocking down the institutions that founded this great country. I mean, look, David Sokol wrote the book, America in Perspective, Defending the American Dream for the Next Generation. And he's talking about these efforts to pack the Supreme Court, you know, change the Second Amendment, the First Amendment, censorship, all of these fundamental principles of America. What do you think is behind these motivations?
They don't like America, plain and simple. I mean, the left doesn't like the things that make America the greatest country ever. They don't like the Constitution. They don't like the rule of law. They like this double standard. They like the, quote, experts making decisions, not the elected officials. The way our country works is you put your name on a ballot, you run for office. If you are, in fact, elected, those individuals make the decisions because they're directly accountable to we, the people. The left doesn't like that. That's why they give so much stock to and power to Fauci and the experts who never have to stand in front of the people and actually run for office. So they don't like the country, and frankly, Maria, they don't like those of us who do like the country.
Yeah.
That's why they have this disdain for people who love America. That's why they want to create the Disinformation Governance Board, so they can go after people like you who are telling the truth, people like me who are fighting for the Constitution. So that's the problem. The good news is the country gets it.
Yeah.
The people of this country get it, and I think they're going to show up in a big way in less than 4 months.
But the progressives are still putting on the show. Let's talk about what happened this week. 17 House Democrats were arrested yesterday outside of the Supreme Court during a pro-abortion protest. They were protesting in front of the highest court, even though that's not illegal. Yeah. Blocking the street between the court and the Capitol is illegal, so they were arrested. But then they put on a real show. Members of the squad turned the protest into a spectacle, with Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez pretending that she's handcuffed, walking around with her hands behind her back as if there are handcuffs. There were no handcuffs in sight.
Yeah. I mean, again, this is the left. This is the way they operate today. I guess I'm more concerned about the broader effort to intimidate a separate and equal branch of government, the United States Supreme Court. I mean, we've seen a pattern here. It started with Schumer on those same steps when he said a few years ago, Gorsuch and Kavanaugh, you have unleashed the whirlwind, you will pay the price. It continues what you said earlier with Democrats introducing legislation to add 4 associate justices to the court, to pack the court.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we have the actions we saw there yesterday. But maybe just as troubling is when Nancy Pelosi, for 4 weeks, held up the legislation that passed unanimously in the Senate to provide protection to Supreme Court justices' family. Held it up, and during that time, while she was holding up that bill, Brett Kavanaugh, one of our Supreme Court justices, there was an assassination attempt on a sitting justice of the United States Supreme Court. So this effort to intimidate the court is very dangerous, and it has to stop. I hope it does.
But there was no comment whatsoever from the DOJ after there was this assassination attempt on Kavanaugh. Now the activist group Shut Down D.C. is targeting Congress.
Yeah.
They tweeted this: "We disrupted Brett Kavanaugh's steak dinner, and we will disrupt the congressional baseball game. The monsters tearing our country apart deserve no peace," writes Shut Down D.C. This is the same group who previously offered cash payments for tips on the locations of Supreme Court justices.
Yeah, again, just demonstrating how radical the left is. I'm concerned like you are. Where's the Justice Department? Because there's a statute on the books that's directly on point. 18 U.S.C. Section 1507 says if, in fact, they are protesting at a justice's home to try to intimidate and influence the court, which is what they were doing in the time between the draft opinion and the official opinion. They were doing that. It's directly on point for that statute, and the Justice Department does nothing. That is a concern. So you now have, and think about this. The key agency, one of the key agencies in the executive branch, actively participating in an effort to intimidate a separate and equal branch of the government.
Right.
That's not supposed to happen. So I think all Americans are concerned by the lack of action from the Justice Department on that particular statute.
Well, the leadership, the Democrat leadership. So if you were there on January 6th, you're an insurrectionist, but no problem if you want to see a Supreme Court justice dead after the abortion ruling. Keith Fitzgerald, jump in.
Congressman, is it the presumption that the American people are just too stupid to understand, or that somehow they're going to steamroll the rest of us into believing this?
No, the American people get it. I think they figured it out. I mean, I've said before, there's a reason why almost 9 out of 10 of our fellow citizens think the country's on the wrong track. They think that because it is, and they know it's driven by the policies of the Biden administration and the hard left, which controls the Democrat Party. So I think the country has figured it out. As I said earlier, I think in what is it, 110 days at the midterm elections, I think they're going to make a big change.
110 days. James Freeman from the Wall Street Journal. Jump in.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, Congressman, if you think that we're out of the woods as far as for this session of Congress avoiding a Biden tax hike. He's been trying. He's been trying. Can we breathe a sigh of relief and say he's failed for this year, or is there still a danger here?
Well, I mean, look, if the election goes away, I think it's going to, then we're going to be okay in the next Congress. So we got to get through these next few months. I think Joe Manchin, God bless him, I think he's not going to go there, and they're going to. So that takes away the reconciliation vehicle. So let's hope that's the case. I think it is. This economy is in a bad enough situation, and we already have the worst tax in history being put on American families. That's inflation driven by the fact that they spend money like crazy, they pay people not to work, and they've driven up the cost of energy. So we got the worst tax. Let's hope they don't do any more, and I think Joe Manchin understands that.
Well, I mean, you've got higher interest rates, you've got inflation at 40-year highs. Who's running the country? Who's telling him that now is a good time to raise taxes?
I mean, again, even if Joe Biden wanted to do the right thing on energy, wanted to do the right thing on the border, wanted to do the right thing on crime and on inflation, even if he wanted to, the left, those people who were there at the Supreme Court yesterday getting arrested and walking away in fake handcuffs, the left won't allow him to do what he wants, even if he wanted to. I don't think he wants to. I think he's just doing whatever the left says.
Okay.
But even if he wanted to, he won't, because they control the party, and that's the problem, and that's what has to be stopped.
Congressman, it's good to see you this morning. Thanks so much.
You bet. Thank you.